Imagine a mountain, carved into the body of a man. In one hand, he holds an entire city. In the other, he pours a river into the sea. This was not a myth. This was a real proposal, made to the most powerful man on earth. And it almost became the eighth wonder of the ancient world. In the 4th century BC, a brilliant but reckless architect named Dinocrates of Rhodes wanted an audience with Alexander the Great, but royal officials kept turning him away. So Dinocrates devised a plan so bold, it bordered on madness. Dinocrates stripped down, oiled his body, crowned himself with poplar leaves, threw a lion's skin over his shoulder, and marched into the royal court dressed as Hercules himself. The crowd gasped, and Alexander demanded to know who this stranger was. Standing before the king, Dinocrates declared, "I propose to form Mount Athos into the statue of a man holding a spacious city in his left hand, and in his right a huge cup, collecting all the streams of the mountain, which shall then be poured into the sea." Alexander was captivated. To understand just how insane this idea was, you need to understand Mount Athos itself. This wasn't some small hill. It was a massive peninsula jutting into the Aegean Sea, over 2,000 meters tall, covered in dense forest and rugged cliffs. Carving a human figure into something this size wasn't just ambitious. It was borderline impossible with the technology of the ancient world. And yet, standing before Alexander, Dinocrates spoke as if it were as simple as sketching on parchment. It's easy to see why this pitch worked on Alexander of all people. This was a man who saw himself as more than a king, a living legend, a descendant of gods. He had already founded cities in his own name across 3 continents. The idea of his own face staring out from a mountain, larger than any pharaoh's monument, larger than anything Egypt or Persia had ever built, it spoke directly to his ego and to his ambition. Picture it, an entire mountain transformed into the body of a colossal man. A whole city cradled in his left hand, rivers gathered and poured from a giant cup in his right, cascading down the mountainside into the sea below. It would have dwarfed every monument in the known world. But Alexander asked one simple question. How would this city feed itself? Dinocrates had no answer. There was no farmland nearby to sustain a population that size. The dream mountain began to crumble before it was ever built. Alexander rejected the Mount Athos project, but he saw something in Dinocrates worth keeping. Instead of dismissing him, the king made him his chief architect. A failed dream had just opened the door to something far greater. Just months later, Alexander sent Dinocrates to Egypt with a new mission: design a city on the fertile Nile Delta, laid out on wide, perfectly intersecting streets. That city would become Alexandria, one of the greatest cities the ancient world would ever know. Wikipedia. Alexandria wouldn't just become a city, it would become the intellectual capital of the ancient world. Home to the legendary Library of Alexandria and the Great Lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Dinocrates himself would go on to restore the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, another of the 7 wonders, proving that the same architect once laughed at for his mountain-sized fantasy would help shape 2 of the greatest monuments humanity ever built. And Mount Athos, it still stands today, untouched, exactly as it always was. No carved face, no stone hand cradling a city. Instead, it became something else entirely. A sacred sanctuary, home to Eastern Orthodox monasteries that have stood for over 1,000 years. The mountain that was almost turned into a monument to one man's ego became, instead, a monument to something far quieter: devotion, silence, and time. So the mountain that was never carved gave birth to a city that changed history forever. Dinocrates never got his colossus of stone and water, but in its place, he built something that would outlive even Alexander himself. Sometimes, the greatest monuments aren't the ones we build. They're the ones born from the dreams we're forced to let go of. If you love uncovering the world's greatest lost dreams and forgotten history, hit subscribe right now, because the next story we uncover might just change how you see the ancient world forever.